What's the main story? Oh, okay. All right, so, oh my God, this is so cringe, you guys. This is so freaking cringe. All right, so today, my wife tells me, she's like, Gabe got invited to a birthday party. Gabe's my son, for those who don't know, he's 11 years old. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, we're excited anytime he is doing something social with other kids his age, because he has trouble making friends sometimes. And so I was like, all right, so, yeah, and I was in the middle of working on something. I was like, so are you taking him to this? She's like, yeah, I'm taking him at 3. And I'm like, okay. So I was playing with Gabe till like 2:30, and then they headed out and they went to this thing. And she's like, yeah, he said, you don't have to worry about bringing a present if you don't want to. And so Gabe translated that to, oh, I don't have to, I'm not getting you a present. And my wife's like, Gabe, that's so rude. Oh my God. All right, look, here's $20. Make like a handmade card real quick, put this in there, and then give him this as the present. And he's like, okay. So she gave him $20 to give to this kid as like a last minute gift. And he goes there and she walks up to the front door with Gabe. And the kid, that's Gabe's friend, answers the door. And he's like, oh, come on in. And Anna's waiting to kind of make sure that the handoff is okay, because we don't know this family. And he's like, hold on, I need to go talk to my dad. So she's like, okay. So she's waiting, and the boy runs off. And then what appears to be his older sister walks by the door, and she's like, Dad didn't give him permission to have a party. And then she walks away. And then my wife is just like, what? So apparently Gabe and I don't know, some other kids got invited to a party and their family hadn't planned for one. So the dad comes down and is just like, now reportedly, according to my wife, he was a very nice, sweet guy. And he was like, all right, so I'm gonna talk to my kid later about this, but he's pulled the wool over our eyes. I don't want that to affect you guys and ruin your day, or your child's day. I'll order some pizza or something, and they can play some games or something like that. And she's like, oh my God. He's like, yeah, we don't have it. We don't. And it also wasn't even clear if it was the kid's birthday. Like after the whole thing was over, I was like, did y'all have cake? And he's like, no. And I'm like, did they open presents? He's like, no. And I'm like, did anyone else bring presents? And he's like, I think one other kid. And I'm like, did this kid just swindle us for $20? I still, to this moment, don't know if it was actually the kid's birthday, chat. Like, the guy, the dad did some last minute planning, and a couple of other kids showed up, and then they played games, and like the kid got out some Nerf guns. They apparently did some Nerf stuff, and they played video games. And then my wife went back at 5, so he was there for like 2 hours, so it was like 3 to 5, and she picks him up and she brings him home, and I find out about all of this after that, and I was like, what the fuck? And she told me about it, and I was like, how was it? And she's like, yeah, go on, tell your dad what you said. And I'm like, what? And for her to say, tell your father what you said, I thought he had just like dropped an F-bomb or something. I didn't know. And he's like, oh, I talked about how grandma got a divorce. I'm like, you just went into like, what? We don't know these people. You just went, I was like, do you know what TMI means? I was like, you just went to a stranger's house and started talking about grandma's divorce? Like, why? And, you know, that's true, Chad, that did happen, but it was just like out of freaking nowhere that he brought this up. And he's like, well, I was like, did they ask you? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, they asked you, is your grandma divorced? He's like, well, no, not exactly like that. I'm like, what did they ask you? And he's like, well, they said, I'm like, okay, hold on, who's they? And I was like, the dad or like one of the other little kids? And he's like, yeah, the kids. And he's like, I was like, okay, what did they say? And he says, they say you never smile, that you're just sad all the time. And I'm like, are you sad all the time? He's like, no. And I was like, okay, but they think you're sad all the time. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, why? And he goes, I guess because I don't smile at school. And I'm like, okay, great. All the other children thinks he's depressed. And I'm like, so they said, why are you sad all the time? He's like, I'm not sad all the time. And they're like, did sad things happen? And he goes, oh, well, in that case, and then he just started saying like all of the worst things that he's been through in his life. He's like, oh, so grandma got a divorce, and grandpa got a divorce, and then this person died, and then and so now they think he's sad. Because he just took that as a permission to just unload. Like, he turned these 10-year-olds into therapists. And I was just like, what? Dude, I found out about all of this. So yeah, anyway, today we got lied to that there was a birthday party and possibly swindled out of $20 by some other child. And we dropped our kid off at this house, made some poor man make a last minute pizza party thing and spend money on that. I don't even know if it was the kid's birthday. And then he told him about all the worst things he's experienced in life. Happy birthday! Oh, and he told his dad, okay, I just remembered. He told his dad that my name is Mukluk, like my legal name. He went to his, he apparently peeked in at one point and the dad was playing Jedi Survivor. And he's like, oh, my dad's played that. And he's like, oh, he has? And he's like, yeah. He's like, what's your dad's name? And he goes, Mukluk. That's an interesting name. And my kid's like, it's his YouTube name too. Okie doke. And I'm like, did you then clarify that that's like an online name? And he's like, no. Great. Did they ask for the funky digits on the back of my credit card too while you were there? It seems like you've told them everything else. Maybe my social security number, whether I'm susceptible to any diseases. Did they want anything else while you were there? And he's like, no, that's it. I'm really tired though. I ran around with doing Nerf guns. And I was just like, oh my God. There was apparently some weird instance too where like he was out of Nerf bullets and some kid yelled your magazine's empty and Gabe's like, I'm not even holding any magazines because he only knows the definition of magazine is like reading a manual, and then there was a huge misinterpretation. It was stupid. But yeah, so yeah, I'm out $20 today. Title of the video for this story time. My son's friend swindled me for $20. There we go. That's it. That's what's happened today since 3 p.m.